Monday, October 13th. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. All right. Okay, so before we continue the meeting, I'd move that the council formally allow any public statements to be received and considered as a part of the record for the matter scheduled for this meeting. This motion is intended to ensure that public input, including factual information and legal concerns regarding the contract award process, is acknowledged and available to council prior to our deliberation. It is also in purpose to preserve transparency and ensure that public concerns are duly considered before the vote is taken. Do I have a motion to entertain public comments?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to entertain public comments. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. In that, we would open the floor to any public comments that would like, for folks that like to speak at this time. Public comments will be available now, but they wouldn't be available later. Would anybody like to speak? Okay. Okay.
As every city, every community, everybody, they're in everywhere. There are rumors. There are a lot of rumors that are saying that there's a lot of concessions being made to the garrison after the acceptance of the bid. No contract was signed, no contract was presented. Everything that they agreed to has been changed. That the $400,000 that was supposed to go toward the city for the Glen event, for all this renovation seems to be off the table from what's being told. That the rent was lowered dramatically, which is something that I put out there in the very beginning. So I'm very anxious to hear if this is true. And I really want to know if it is true, were these same concessions offered to John Weinbrenner or any other bidder? Because when you accept a bid and you sign an agreement, you and I deal with contracts all the time, Carmen. You sign a contract, it's a contract. Why are we going through concessions? Why are we just now still don't have a contract signed? My second question is, if the garrison backs out, which is a possibility, it's a possibility. If he backs out, then what? How many months are we going to go with no revenue? Which all of you, except for you, said the whole reason you voted for the garrison was for the revenue, for the financial gain that they were bringing to the city and where they were going to improve this beautiful building. And if that's off the table, I think their bid should be off the table. And if that bid, if it is, it should be offered back up to the rest of the bidders and they should have an opportunity. If not, we could end up with 6 months. We've already been doing this bidding for what, almost a year? And if this contract doesn't go through, how much money is the city going to lose and the taxpayers are going to have to come up with it to pay for this building? That's what I want to know, guys.
Thank you, Ms. Starnes. Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on. Okay. Our new business is a consideration of approving the license agreement as it relates to the food and beverage services.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Loud. There we go. Okay. Okay. Mr. City Manager, if you would please, sir. You want to review the contract for us?
Yeah, let's get a motion.
Yeah, if you get a motion in a second,
So you
then
don't wanna review
the
the
city
contract
attorney will
before
be
the
ready to
Okay.
cover things.
So do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, a motion to approve the license agreement with the Garrison at Tega Cay as it relates to food and beverage services.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
Yes, at this point, I'd like to turn it over to our council and city manager to cover a couple items that were addressed this evening.
Hang on, guys.
We're getting
Yes,
there.
we're-
We haven't
we're getting
voted
there.
yet.
Donna, we don't have any outbursts from the gallery.
I'll go ahead, if council's ready.
Yes, sir.
This one has been a long time coming, and it's more complex than most of these, hence it involves a little bit more city council. This, I've got the mic on. I don't know if it's, I'll speak louder. I'm sorry, I thought it was into a microphone. City sent out an RFP for the food and beverage agreement. There were 10 interested parties, which resulted in 3 bids. The city council determined that the Garrison was the most advantageous to the city. The RFP and city code do allow negotiations. If you look at the RFP, in fact, the first 2 sentences of the RFP allow negotiations, as does city code 2-216C. There really weren't a lot of modifications from the proposal. There were discussions, and there were discussions of a longer term, which would have been more investment, but that would have been more rent concessions requested from the city. In the end, city council desired and stayed with the proposal as presented. This RFP is unique. It's different because it's got significant investment from the proposer. They've got to do significant upfits, and that complicates matters. The structure of this one is a license agreement, as it was in the prior agreement, and as it was in the agreement before that. So this is a similar structure used for the 3rd time. And now I'll go through the key contract terms. The area is the clubhouse and also the conference center and the ballroom. The term is for 5 years, commencing on February 1st, 2026. There's an automatic extension of the term unless either party provides a notification not to renew. The Garrison can terminate because it's a license agreement. They would forfeit the $42,000 deposit. The city can also terminate, but once the significant upfits, which we will go through, are made, there's a credit for these upfits. That was something that was in the Garrison's proposal, and they said with the short-term agreement, if we're going to make upfits, we would like to have a pro rata credit and an early termination. There's a license fee, which a lot of people consider similar to rent. It is $15,000 a month for the clubhouse, but there are upfit credits. For the first 4 months, there's a credit of $10,000, so there'll be a $5,000 payment. For months 5 through 19, there's a $7,500 upfit credit, therefore a $7,500 payment. Total credits, $132,500. The original proposal asked for $135,000 in credits. They also did not want to pay any rent for 9 months after a CO, which could be even longer than 9 months because you've got to do the improvements. City Council wanted some stream of income to come in, and I think this structure is much more advantageous to the city. There's also the conference center ballroom rent. There's a flat fee or a minimum of $1,500 a month plus 6% of the revenues with a cap up to $6,500 a month. Now we get to the upfits. The Garrison agreed, per the contract terms, to make at least $400,000 in upfits. One of the revisions we made to the agreement was they said they were going to make $400,000 in upfits, and they have a rough depiction of the bar area with knocking out walls, building new walls, making a new bar and restaurant area with that. The city does get to approve the final plans, and we have extensive accounting procedures. They have to demonstrate some reasonable proof that the upfits were made, and then you can ask for an accounting. With that, they did ask for the upfit allowance. They asked for the reduction of rent for a portion of the upfits. In the end, at least $400,000, so it should be more than $400,000, will be made to upfit the premises, with the garrison responsible for those costs. The overall structure of the agreement is the garrison is responsible for the upfit costs, general operation and management. That's the equipment, which is a lot of equipment in the restaurant industry. They'll have to bring that up to their standards and maintain it. And the city basically maintains the building. It's the HVAC for the building, and then the exterior structure and roof. And that is the agreement in a nutshell. But the proposal came in, and yes, it took a while to negotiate, but there were not significant modifications from the proposal. In fact, the incentives came down and were structured better for the city than what was on the original proposal. And I'll entertain any questions from council.
To clarify on the termination, the city's only responsible for any payment of fees if the city chooses to terminate without cause. Is that correct?
Yes, you still have a for-cause termination, such as a breach of the agreement. It'd have to be a material term of the agreement. But the prior license agreement and this one included a city right to terminate. We call it without cause. You can terminate for any reason, but you pay a penalty. And there's a sliding scale with that penalty. So if they make the $400,000 in upfits and you terminate at year 2, you're going to pay a higher fee because they've made that huge investment, and you don't have cause. You aren't terminating for a breach. You can still terminate for a breach of the contract if they breach and fail to cure the breach of the terms. And then if you terminate in year 4, that's going to go down. And then also after year 5, if council is not pleased with the performance, as with the prior agreement, you can provide notice of non-renewal. It's, I believe, 120 days, but that was in the original contract terms, that you have to provide some type of notice, both parties. They have to provide notice if they're going to terminate at the end of the term, likewise for you for planning purposes.
And there's no fee if we decided not to extend after that 5 years?
Correct. As long as you provide your 120-day notice, you can terminate at the end of the 5-year period.
Okay, thank you.
And the upfits would remain property of TKK.
Chaplain, if you would, for our residents, could you touch on that piece of your discussion where there's language in the RFP and the procurement ordinance that there is room for negotiation?
Certainly.
Just want to make sure that we clarify that for folks so they understand how that process works.
Yeah, the language in your city code is in 216C, and it states that negotiations may be conducted with any offerer submitting a proposal. And it also states to keep the records confidential until such time as you reach an understanding or an agreement, because it would be adverse to the city to release that prior to reaching an agreement with the party. And then with the RFQ, it states that actually throughout the agreement, it mentions, throughout the RFP, it mentions it, but the first paragraph, first sentence, city reserves the right without prejudice to reject in whole and part any and all proposals received and waive all technicalities, or to negotiate any terms or provisions of the proposal. Such rejection, waiver, or negotiation shall be accomplished in any manner necessary to serve the best interest of the city. So it's your city code and your RFP both allow the negotiation. Now, what we don't want to do is, as the resident noted, to have an RFP and then negotiate for worse terms.
Right.
But this is intended to assist the city, and I think it did in this situation. We also, we added language regarding the accounting, the approval of the plans. We beefed up language with the security deposit. We simplified a few other provisions, but we made the agreement better through the negotiations, and we ended up with less incentive that was in the proposal. But I think more importantly, that's over time. Instead of no rent over what could have been up to a year, now they get the $10,000 off for the first 4 months and then half rent for months 5 through 19. And I think that's, you want to have rent coming in, and I think that's a lot better.
So follow-up question on that. Thank you for clarification on that. Follow-up question then, of the 10 interested parties and the 3 bidders that we received quotes from, all of them received the language that said that there could very likely be a negotiation process after a bid's received. Is that right? They received that information?
Yeah, it's in the RFP and part of your published city code.
So they all had the opportunity to present a bid and negotiate it if it were accepted?
Correct.
Okay.
That we also have the revenue contracts addition to our procurement clause, and that has that also stated at the bottom of that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Chaplain, I've got a question on our procurement code as it stands. How is it that our procurement code can supersede state law?
There are different types of requests for proposals, and there are some for what we call equipment or widgets, and those are generally, you accept the lowest responsive bid, but there are others when you have qualifications and other matters, and then you're provided more flexibility. So if this was straight up, we want to buy pencils, and pencils are pencils, and they're the same, then you go with the lowest responsive bid.
In looking at the procurement code for South Carolina and the code of law, section 5-7-30 states that the municipal ordinances or practices may not conflict with general state law. This would mean that our procurement code is in direct conflict with this section, given that our procurement code does allow that the city manager can negotiate bids on the city's behalf.
The TICA did not adopt the state procurement code. That applies to state agencies, and most municipalities don't adopt the state procurement code because it is not nearly as flexible. So the state procurement code does not apply.
So state law does not apply in the city?
That's the state procurement code. It only applies if you don't adopt your own procurement code. Municipalities are authorized, and most do, adopt their own procurement codes with more flexibility.
Okay.
And it was wise of y'all to do so. I mean, that was well before my time. But I know that our firm represents the city of Rock Hill, and we were involved in that, and they're like, there's not the flexibility in the state procurement code. We want more flexibility.
So in this contract, did we have any material changes at all in the contract?
I don't think so. Not from the proposal and the template.
So all the renovations, everything from the original bid that we had is the same as the bid that we have now?
I don't know the original bid. I know the proposal after negotiations. And I think the diagram is the one that was originally submitted, yes, that was attached as Exhibit C. That's the first one that was submitted. Exhibit D, yes, that's the same exhibit. We just put language that it's they said they put 400,000, so we added language to secure that and make it part of the agreement.
And with that 400,000, there's a significant kitchen upgrade is what we've got, right?
Kitchen upgrade in the bar area, yes.
What's that now?
The bar area will be the most expensive, but yes.
Okay. All right.
A couple of things I'd like to say real quick. City attorney just covered a couple of things, but I want to make sure that I'm pretty clear on this. There's some information that was floating around out there. Don't know how it got out there, but one of the things was there was going to be 9 months of rent-free for the new tenant. That's incorrect. We just covered exactly how much was going to be paid, so it's not rent-free for the first 9 months. I want to make sure we're clear on that first. The second thing is there is not $400,000 of concessions to the new tenant. That is absolutely incorrect at all. There's $400,000 of commitment to pay towards the city-owned property. And if they vacate, that $400,000 in the renovations that they've done stay with the city. There is no concession that way. So I don't know where that came from. So I want to make sure we are clear on that completely. The third thing that I want to say is there is a nice little security deposit of $42,000 that is going to be put out there. So we're covered with a lot of stuff that way. But I just want to make sure that the information that was floating out there, we're clear on and what's going on and what actually is in the contract and not the hearsay and the stuff that's going on out there.
If I may, Chaplain, the 9 months rent-free, that was in the original proposal that the Garrison gave us, wasn't it?
That was the proposal that y'all
That was a request.
negotiated from, yes.
And then because of our ability to negotiate that, we're not going to be rent-free for 9 months.
Correct, you're going to have a rent abatement or a rent credit, and that's based upon the improvements, but it is $10,000 for the first 4 months, and then $7,500, which is half of the rent for months 5 through 19.
Yeah, 5 through
And
19.
and the total cumulative is still less than the proposal, but even better, they're paying rent all along.
Right.
Time
Okay.
value of money.
Very good.
You'll start
Yes, sir.
getting rent.
That was the point that I wanted to make sure it was heard too. It was that the way that the agreement is now being signed, it's actually less of a cost to the city during that abatement than their original ask. The way that we structured it, they're actually paying more in that than having the 9 months of abatement.
They're paying more and earlier.
Thank you.
So a little clarification on the investment that the Garrison will make. So in our agreement, if I read the language right, they have to be able to demonstrate that they've invested a minimum of $400,000 in upfits and upgrades, correct?
Correct. And we
And I-
have the right to, they're supposed to provide summaries and an accounting, and we can ask for further documentation if we're not satisfied.
Now, the one that I know of, the one requirement to be included in that 400,000 was the expansion of the bar into the current existing pro shop. Is that right?
Correct, and that's attached as an exhibit.
Okay, very good. Are we allowed to have any discussion for the benefit of our residents, what some of the delays were about and what some of the offers for additional investment were? Would it be appropriate to talk about that?
Normally, I would say no because you're still in negotiation, but they have offered this, and it's for your approval. And if council wants to allow that, you can do that at this stage. It would be by consensus if y'all want to allow that.
Would anyone have a problem with us sharing what the Garrison had proposed? So I think it's probably important for the public to know that. Can you hear me? You cannot hear me, sorry. All right, I'll try and speak up. The original proposal came in for the $400,000 investment in the property plus $15,000 a month rent for the restaurant and bar and $1,500 in rent for the conference center plus 6% of revenue from the conference center up to $6,500 per month. They took advantage of their opportunity to negotiate that and came back to us and said, we want to invest more. We want to make it bigger and nicer and more beautiful. But for that, we also want additional rent concessions. Not concessions, but they wanted rent adjustments for a longer period of time and for less rent per month. We felt as a body that those were significant material changes to the original proposal, and we asked them to come back to the original proposal that they made, that we would accept that, and if at a later date down the road they wanted to make additional investments, or they wanted to make more of an investment than the $400,000 that they agreed to, that they're welcome to do that. But we weren't going to require that of them, and they weren't going to require anything further from us. We basically stuck to the original proposal that we agreed to when they originally gave it to us. Any additions or corrections to that? Okay.
Is there any further discussion? All right, I will call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay. We have
3 ayes.
3-1.
And for those that don't know, Councilman Heislip wasn't able to vote because he was recused from the process.
Okay. With that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, motion to adjourn.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.